Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive with us.
Yeah.
And today, we are looking into a really unsettling event,
Ah,
the 2001 Greyhound Bus Attack
right.
near Manchester, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Oh,
We've got some sources here about the incident itself and also about the person who was involved and some of the immediate aftermath.
yeah.
And I think our mission here is to try to understand this particular event, which is kind of fascinating because it happened so soon after 9/11.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's some elements to this story that might be surprising to people who are familiar with it or new to it.
Yeah, so let's start by setting the scene.
Okay.
What happened here?
Sure.
Our sources tell us it was the early morning hours
Right.
of October 3rd, 2001,
Uh-huh.
around 4 a.m.
Yeah.
It took place on Interstate 24, just outside of Manchester, Tennessee.
Okay.
And to give you a sense of place, that's about an hour southeast of Nashville.
Right.
So this Greyhound bus was traveling a pretty good distance from Chicago.
Yeah. It was going to Orlando, Florida.
Wow.
Yeah, a long trip.
Yeah, a long trip.
39 people on board.
Wow.
And the person who was responsible for the attack was a Croatian man by the name of Damir Igric.
Okay.
And he was born on September 21st, 1972.
So the weapon that he used is something that you might have in your kitchen drawer,
Oh, yeah.
a utility knife,
Utility knife.
and he slashed the throat of the bus driver, Garfield Sands.
Right.
Now, just imagine you're on this overnight bus. You're probably trying to sleep,
Yeah.
and this happens.
It's a horrifying thought.
It's unbelievable.
And really, I mean, this is just the beginning.
Right.
He then tried to steer the bus into oncoming traffic.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So this resulted in a very bad crash.
Right.
7 people died, including Igrich himself,
Yeah.
and 22 people injured,
Right.
with one person also suffering from that initial knife attack.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of casualties.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a huge tragedy.
it is.
But remarkably, the bus driver, Garfield Sands,
Yeah,
he survived
that's amazing.
both the attack and the crash.
Yeah.
And in fact, his account of what happened is really kind of chilling because apparently he was approached several times by Igrich.
Really?
Yeah, who kept asking him how long until the next stop.
Wow.
And
So he was agitated?
it seems that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really you have to wonder what's going on in someone's mind when they're behaving that way.
Yeah.
But so he told him that they would be stopping in Manchester soon and to go back to his seat.
Uh-huh.
But then when Igrich approached him again, he didn't say anything.
Oh, wow.
He just took out the knife and attacked him.
Oh, my gosh.
And he actually physically moved the driver aside,
Wow.
took control of the steering wheel himself.
So he took over the bus.
Yeah, he was in control.
And the driver still managed to get out of that wreckage and call for help.
It's pretty incredible.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what a strong person he must be to go through that.
Yeah, I mean, what a story. Yeah.
And there was a passenger named Carly Rinierson.
Right.
And she remembers that Igrich actually asked her for the time
Yeah.
and then asked if he could switch seats with her.
Wow.
She said no.
Mm-hmm.
He went to the back of the bus.
Okay.
About an hour later,
Yeah.
she saw him return with what she describes as a small knife or a pocket knife
Right.
and then attack the driver.
Yeah, I mean,
But it's like
yeah.
this very normal interaction.
It's bizarre.
And then all of a sudden it's not.
Right out of the blue. Yeah, and that's what's so scary about these situations. You just never know
No,
what's going to happen or when something like this is going to occur.
you don't.
Yeah.
So the driver did manage to get away.
Right.
He called for help.
Yeah.
But the other passengers on the bus were in a really vulnerable state
Yeah.
because they were asleep.
Yeah, a lot of them I think were asleep.
And then this crash happens.
Right.
So 21 people were treated at the scene
Yeah.
and released.
Uh-huh.
9 were hospitalized, stable condition.
In stable condition,
Yeah.
and 3 were in critical condition.
Right.
Mm.
So, this was such a big news story at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, this happened less than a month after 9/11.
Yeah.
So,
The nation was already on edge.
oh, yeah, totally. I mean, people were afraid.
Yeah.
And there was some suggestions at the time that it might have been terrorism.
Yeah.
But that doesn't seem to have been the case.
Right.
But you can understand why people would think that.
You can, yeah.
Yeah.
And Greyhound actually suspended service nationwide.
Temporarily.
Temporarily.
Yeah. They shut down.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing that they would do that.
Yeah.
But I guess, given the circumstances, you can understand why.
You can, yeah. It's pretty crazy.
It is.
Now, you would think that after this attack,
Yeah.
Greyhound would implement a lot of new security measures.
We think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But they didn't actually.
Oh.
Yeah, because not right away. It wasn't until almost a year later after another similar incident happened in Canada.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This one is called The Killing of Tim McLean, and it was also a knife attack on a Greyhound bus.
My gosh.
Yeah, it's really quite disturbing.
That's terrible.
But anyway, so after that happened, Greyhound started putting in these protective barriers
Oh, okay.
around the driver on their new buses.
Gotcha.
So,
To protect them from attack.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting that it takes, sometimes multiple tragedies like this
Yeah.
to get companies or organizations or whatever
Yeah.
to take
To
action.
make change.
Yeah.
That's true.
So the FBI did confirm that he boarded the bus in Chicago.
Right.
So they were able to sort of track his movements.
Yeah, to some extent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our sources also point out that, this kind of event falls into the category of what they call rampage killers.
Yeah, they do.
And they compare it to the killing of Tim McLean like we talked about.
So it makes you think, yeah, are there any kind of common threads?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it's something that criminologists and psychologists and all kinds of experts have been trying to figure out
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Is it just about the person's mental state?
Mm-hmm.
Or are there other factors,
Right.
broader societal factors,
Yeah.
that contribute to these kinds of events?
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
So let's talk a little bit about Damir Igrich himself.
Okay, sure.
We know he was born in 1972 in what was then Yugoslavia,
Right.
now Croatia.
Uh-huh.
And he worked in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
But he also had some vocational training as a locksmith.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
So he had some skills.
He did.
Yeah.
He served in the Croatian army from 1991 to 1993.
Right.
Now, this was during a time of conflict.
It was a very tumultuous time.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a lot of fighting going on.
Yeah, so...
And according to the Croatian ambassador,
Yeah.
Igrich was actually discharged from the army. Okay. Because of violent behavior
Oh, wow.
and substance abuse.
Oh, my gosh.
And he was also apparently connected to some crimes
Really?
in Croatia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a history.
There is. Yeah, so it sounds like this wasn't,
Yeah.
a one-off kind of thing.
Right.
He had been involved in violence before.
Right.
Yeah.
And he also participated in Croatia's Homeland War of Independence
He did.
during the mid-1990s.
Yeah, which was another
Very tumultuous time.
extremely violent period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of trauma, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to imagine
You can't even imagine
what
it.
that must have been like.
No.
Yeah.
So then he enters the U.S. in March of 1999
Right.
in Miami, Florida,
Uh-huh.
and he came in on a 30-day transit visa.
Right.
But he overstayed that visa by 2 years.
Yeah.
So he told immigration that he had relatives in Florida
Uh-huh.
and New York.
Right. I don't know how he managed to pull that off.
That's a long time.
It is a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder about, the system.
The system. Yeah.
Yeah. How effective was it at tracking people
Right.
who were overstaying their visas?
Right. And
Okay.
before the attack, he was employed at a restaurant in New York City.
He was.
So he was working,
Yeah. It seems like he was trying to
trying to make a life.
make a go of it. Yeah.
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 Now, our sources tell us that Igrich had a long history of mental illness.
They do.
And this seems like a really crucial piece of information.
It does.
Yeah.
But it's not really clear what his diagnosis was.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
how his mental health might have contributed to the attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the missing piece.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we have, the timeline of events and we have some information about his background,
Right.
but the why
Right.
is still a mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's unsettling
It is.
to think about that.
It is. Yeah.
That, someone could do something so horrific
Yeah.
and we may never know why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to wrap things up, this attack was incredibly sudden
It was.
and brutal.
Yeah, and it really affected a lot of people.
A lot of people. Yeah. In a terrible way.
Yeah, and we have these incredible stories of the driver who fought back,
Yeah.
the passengers who witnessed the attack,
Yeah.
and then you have the background of Damir Igrich,
Right.
who, had this history of violence,
Yeah.
possible substance abuse,
Mhm.
mental illness,
Yeah.
but we still don't know why he did it.
Right.
It's the question that lingers.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And it's impossible to separate this whole event
Yeah,
from what was happening in the world at the time.
that's right.
It was so soon after 9/11.
Uh-huh.
And
I mean, the country was in a state of shock.
total shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that probably influenced the way people reacted to this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really makes you think.
It does about
Um,
how we respond to these sorts of things.
Yes.
And how we try to understand them.
Understand them, yeah.
Yeah.
And how do we balance trying to prevent these things from happening
Yeah.
with the reality that there's always going to be a certain amount of uncertainty?
Right. You can't predict everything.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
So what do you think is a good takeaway for our listeners today?
I think, one thing to think about is that even though these kinds of events are rare,
Right.
they do happen.
They do.
And I think it's important to be aware of that
Yeah.
and to be prepared.
In whatever way you can be prepared.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can't live your life in fear,
Right.
but you can take steps to protect yourself
Yes.
and to be aware of your surroundings.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I hope you'll join us next time.
See you then.
See you later.